All right, everyone, I'm going to call to order our Monday, February 10th Finance Committee meeting. If you can't tell, my voice is so great tonight. And so if there's not an objection from the Finance Committee, I'm going to ask Alder Lampy to chair our meeting tonight. I will be able to vote still. I'm going to do less talking. So everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, well, go ahead.
All right, we already called to order. At this point, I would like to solicit a motion to approve the minutes available in your packet. Motion by Davis, second.
Second.
By Moldenauer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are now on to section 3 business. First item here is the proposed fee schedule changes. Do we have a presentation on that tonight?
I can just answer any questions. I mean, basically, the memo says what needs to be said, that we, finance department initiated an update and we got split off into our own schedule. It hasn't been updated in over 10 years, so we came up with a proposal to simplify those fees and make them more inclusive of what actually costs are incurred by us. And I also do we have met him already. Mike Jasek, our new building inspector, is here to help answer any of the questions you might have on this fee schedule. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Are there any questions?
I was just curious, on the proposed fee schedule, the reason for changes to match the new state fees. Talk me through that. I need some education on that. Do we turn around and then pay the state, or how does that work?
No, those plan review fees were just raised to match what the state charges to do plan.
Okay, so if
That's
you were to
all.
go through the state, this
If
is
you
how
were to
much
go
they would
through the-
charge.
That's how much they would.
And so we're matching the state.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Like, there's a certain square footage where people automatically go to the state for review.
Anything over 50,000 cubic feet has to go to the state.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I just had one, and we probably don't want to answer it here. One of the observations that someone who was looking through the packet and questioned me about was the comparisons to the communities with impact fees in Hartford and Oconomowoc. And so in relation, I think, to some of the economic development pieces that we're looking at, some knowledge of which communities are using impact fees and which ones are not would be, I think, good to have in a few of our committees, including, I guess, one of the ones I would refer it down into is the RDA. Okay, we're looking to take action on this fee schedule. Is there a motion to approve the fee schedule as presented? Alderman Bartz.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Alderman Moldenauer. Please advise me on this one. Are we doing a voice vote?
All in favor is fine.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one passes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The next item is B, update on compression. We don't believe we have packet information on that one.
Mark's gonna just provide an update.
Just to bring you up to date, you all received a inquiry from Officer Hensley. The mayor and I met with him last week before the mayor lost her voice. And
It must have been because of this meeting.
oh, maybe because of that meeting, yes.
Officer Hensley's here just in case.
We went through and explained it. He is not an individual that has been on compression before, so it was new to him and the understanding there. Just to bring to your reminder as to what's going on, compression is a temporary increase that expires at the end of the year. And then we go through that process once again, where I review everybody that works for the city to see if there is any compression issues. Issue of compression is when the employee may be paid very closely in range to their supervisor. So those things are underway. We don't do it in the month of January into the beginning of February, just because of the workload of myself and others that participate. But we're underway with that. The compression calculations then will be determined, advertised to the supervisors that are involved. through memos and face-to-face meetings. And then it's considered a retroactive pay back to January 1 through whatever current pay period there is. So that's where we are on that process, just bringing it to your attention as a reminder. We are underway with the pay study, the new pay study with the new consulting company. And this is definitely an area where we've already talked to them, making sure that they're aware of the amount of work that's involved and whether or not there's a way to solve this. So this is definitely on their, please come up with a solution for us on it so that it's better able to be handled into the future.
When are we expecting that pay study to?
Pay study just started. Last Monday was the kickoff with department heads. And then I know I had my personal meeting with them today, and that's what's happening this week. So that all of the department heads have the ability to have some one-on-one time with each of the different departments. They are going to then be advertising or passing out job description questionnaires that all employees, for the most part, all employees, unless you have similar jobs in place, they will all be asked to fill those out and get them completed. Our hope and anticipation is short return on this. It was something that we wanted to make sure that the current alders that are more accustomed and understanding of our budget process would be the ones to participate in that process. So it's on a fast track.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you for the update. No action is needed on that one. Moving on to 3C, which is review and take action, a modification on the forestry budget. Christine is not here. We'll check in the room here.
It's okay. Mark worked with her on this one.
Yep.
Okay.
It, I think, talks about,
They
yeah,
just
in the
didn't
second
receive it.
paragraph, we did not receive the DNR Urban Forestry Grant for the year. So that's typically the source of funds for the things that are being asked for the ash treatments, tree removals and the like. And also without the $25,000 grant, we are showing that on page 15 of the packet that unfortunately we're going to reduce the income by $25,000 because that grant is not coming. And so associated to that was a full $25,000 that would have been spent through grants. But they're just saying, ooh, we do still need to have some money. And so they came up with the list of $14,000 that they're requesting. The only solution that I found at this point in the year, it's hard to say, well, you've got a savings in this particular account and all. And so it is a request against the contingency fund. It's starting this year at 81,700. This would reduce it to 14,160, making the new contingency fund 67,540.
Any questions?
No.
Mr. Bartz?
What about the other account, the urban forestry account that you're projecting to reduce?
The urban forest, both of the first account was the income account and the second account is the associated expense. So it was 25,000 that's not going to happen. And so the 25,000 is the original budget that needs to be reduced effectively to 25,000. But that's where she's asking for, can I please keep 14,000 of it?
Good. Thank you.
Alderman Davis?
For the Right Tree, Right Spot program, does anyone have any knowledge as to how that started? Did that originally start as a result of grant money? Or have we only done that as we've had grant money?
I don't want to speak to inception because
I'm
Oh,
online.
Okay. Go ahead.
So yes, so that is something that was produced through the grant. They have us do so many community engagements, and the Right Tree, Right Spot was one of those community engagement pieces that the community has kind of taken hold of and really appreciates.
And tell us a little bit about the specifics. Is it reduce the cost of the tree?
Sorry. Yes, it does. So, for the right tree, right spot, they pay, I believe it's $100 for the tree. We cover the rest of the portion of it, and then they get a boulevard tree, of their choosing. We have a list of authorized trees to choose from. And then that's how we go through that process of right tree, right spot.
And when you say we cover the rest, can you approximate how much that would be for a tree?
It's for a tree, it's usually, for the size that we get, it's usually about $200.
The remaining portion is $200, so it's a $300.
I'm sorry. Nope. It's 100 for them and 100 for us. So it's a $200 tree.
And I don't know how much of this $14,000 was going to go to that program, but would it make sense to increase the amount that the community pays into that tree if we are no longer receiving the grant that was used to start that program?
I guess it's something that we haven't discussed in detail of raising the fee for the community. It's something that we could definitely talk about.
So I have two things I wanted to ask Christine on that one. One is on the Right Tree, Right Spot program. Is that the one that's tied with the Randy Raisler estate gift?
No, that's a different program that we run.
Okay, so that one continues regardless of what we do here.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second question or the concern that I have is I think this is the second year in a row we have not gotten that grant. And I'm starting to.
No, actually, we didn't receive it in 23. We did receive it last year in 24, and now this year we didn't receive it again. The funny thing about it is that the forestry department has done such a great job of removing emerald ash borer from the area that we are kind of falling below. So we are trying to figure out different community engagement pieces that we can really pull into it. So we're trying to reach out to the school district to do different engagements with the youth and teach them about trees and how to plant them and all of those things. So we are working on it. It is something that we were very close this year to getting it, but there are other communities that just have a little bit more need in the emerald ash area.
From a budget perspective, I guess I'd like to flag this one for our upcoming budget, basically, to see if that's a plug we should keep in future years.
Okay.
All right, we have a need to take action on this. So if you look at page 15, you do see 3 accounts that would be adjusted by those amounts. I think we've covered all of them except contingency, which after this modification would still be at 67.5. So at this point, I would solicit a motion if you're looking to approve this recommendation from our Park and Rec Director. Alderman Bartz, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? It's awfully quiet in here. I think I'll second then.
So I guess what I am concerned about is continuing to offer the subsidized tree program when the city isn't getting the grant that enables us to do that. I'm completely on board with continuing some of those projects there, but I guess I don't know enough about the breakout. How much are we talking about? So does anybody know how much the Right Tree, Right Spot program is? Are we just talking, I don't know how many thousands of dollars that is, or?
We actually put it out, so they have to apply for it. We don't just offer it up to anybody in the community, so they have to apply for it. I believe last year, I want to say we did 20 trees. So it's not a huge cut out of this funds. What this is really, it's for trees for the year so that we can plant in our parks and locations like that. It's also for supplies. Because we've had some needs of things that the grant usually covers, and then this year we don't have it. So those are the types of supplies that we would also need. So it really comes down to the Right Tree, Right Spot program is definitely something that is a need in the community because it helps our private tree canopy. However, the the main focus of it is just the trees that we plant on a yearly, because we cut down so many, we have to replenish those trees to keep our tree canopy up. So that is what this grant is for.
Well, I think I can support this ask from the contingency fund, but I would encourage the team there to see what we can do to recoup even more of that money since the grant money didn't come in. So just make it an initiative to see where we can cut costs there and reclaim some of that money, maybe not spend it.
We can definitely do that. Thank you for the suggestion.
I'm sorry.
Second, did she second that then?
I think we have a.
I was the second.
Oh, you second, okay.
Yes, so we're discussing the motion to approve.
Okay,
And if we're ready, we can take a vote, or you could ask.
Take
another
the vote.
question. Take a vote, okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Then C is approved with the recommendation on page 15. Thank you. We're moving on to 3D, which is review and take possible action on pay step placements for the water distribution team members. And I do believe Mr. Hartz is going to present on this one.
Yes, thank you. I'm prepared to read through my summary if that's needed. And if everyone's had time to go through that, I can take questions right now. This matter is before the committee as we're seeking a step placement above 3, so 4 or higher is determined by the Finance Committee. We spent some time in good conversation with the mayor and the city staff reviewing this since the payroll resolution was passed at the end of December. And so we are here in front of this committee to find a resolution to where the proper placement for our team members should be. So I'm ready for some questions, or I can continue to read through and hit the highlights of my memo.
How would you like to proceed? Do you want questions?
So it's my understanding, in summary, we had a resolution to put the employees at grade J, step 3, but then reality, no, did I say that wrong?
The step placement was not part of the
Okay.
payroll resolution.
So grade J,
Grade. Just the grade change.
Just the grade.
okay.
change.
And then reality unfolds and you realize that you have people at different experience levels. So you're back again to say, okay, where should we place them? Now knowing that we have these different levels of experience and we want to be equitable.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, that's my understanding. So
Okay.
I followed your memo.
So I think what we're looking for is what that step should be.
Yes.
Pete makes a recommendation
Right.
on what it should be and cites sections of the handbook for you. We just need to determine what that is. Do you have anything you want to add?
Just a couple of clarifications on the menu. One, the menu alleges that without the grade change, there would have been a grade H for all of the individuals, and they would have actually been a grade G, which is another step.
It was
Grade below.
first an H, and then we sent it back for the market review, and that's when it came back as a J. They were on an H. Or,
For the first proposal from the market review was H.
yes.
Okay.
So, and that went back for, it wasn't a market review first. It went to the market review and that moved it up to the J. So it was a one grade advancement, which was contested by the employees and staff, and it went back after a discussion with Andrew and Tim and I for the market review, and that was approved to a J. Sorry to interrupt, Stephen.
So as I was saying, in 2024, they were at a grade G, not grade H. The grade H was one step up. The review then suggested that it goes up to a grade J. In addition, the proposed resolution for the memo would take them to a grade J step 7, which would be outside of the line with the 5%, 8% pay raise, which is standard for promotion and what would be followed. That does only account for 1 to 2 steps, and this would be a 3-step increase. There is some leeway for the committee to make that determination if they think that it does make sense to go higher than the 5 or 8% increase. The 8% increase would put somebody at a step 4, just because it comes out a little bit below what that step 4 is, and it requires that they get bumped up to the next level if it goes higher than that, so.
Are there any other thoughts or questions on this?
But new hires here would continue to be, or would come in at a grade J?
Yes. In fact, we just had a new one start this past.
It's just the step
Wednesday.
that would be different.
Mhm.
So they'll be at a J, but most likely step 1 or 2, maybe 3, but
Correct. That's true.
depending upon the test.
Depending on the test and the experience. We did go in with our newest hire had counter offered and we didn't accept his counter offer. But he does have an opportunity to pass some tests within his probationary period and step up. So, we could hire a new employee as the policy states from step 1 to 6, but we typically try and get on 1, 2, or 3 based on their experience.
Go ahead.
So on the, I believe it's the second page of the memo, second bullet towards the bottom, it says determining pay for new hires, page 22.
Yes.
And that's what's in conflict with what you're saying, Mr. Cheeseborough, where you're suggesting that the new hires would, Tony and Steve's qualifications would start at 6, underscoring the need to place them at step 7. But you're saying, Mr. Cheeseborough, that step 4 would be more in line with our policy?
For a new hire, step 1 through 3 is what's in line with city policy in general. That's what the city staff has permission to offer without coming to finance committee for additional approval. Step 4 or above would require finance
Right.
approval. So
So here's the difference. Stephen is citing the market adjustment pay change policy.
Okay.
Pete's second bullet is saying hypothetically, if they were to quit and apply, they would fall under this category, and this is where they would be ranked. Is that fair?
That is fair. Yeah. In
So
the
just-
past, we had a situation like that.
It's just 2 different sections of policy, and
That are in conflict.
it's part of the reason why we're here, honestly. Our policy isn't perfect.
Right.
I
We
shared-
recognize that.
I shared with Pete, I struggled to follow it at step 4, but I didn't know what the next, I didn't want to like arbitrarily just pick a number then, which is why you all get to be a part of that discussion process. I
Right.
do think there needs to be more separation between those 2 gentlemen and people that could come in after them. They have decades of experience that's very relevant. So
Today is Tony's 28th employment anniversary.
Thank you for highlighting that. I think that was one of the things that I was hoping we would basically be able to put out on the table. I didn't have any context to put it in those terms, but the experience matters there. Personally, I'm very happy that the recommendation comes in and puts them all essentially within J. I think that simplifies things as opposed to trying to step across two different grades. If you guys are interested in following the recommendation, there's 3 individuals here, named individuals that would be placed at 2 different steps on grade J, 2 at step 7, 1 at step 3. And then there's also a new hire policy, basically around placement between steps 1 and 4. And all of the steps are retroactive to January 1st. There's a little bit of complexity in the recommendation. But if that's acceptable, and we want to just basically pass the recommendation as stated with the recommendation and the retroactive piece, we could take that.
you don't need to do the 3rd bullet, that's existing policy.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I can make a motion to follow the recommendations in this memo for bullets 1 and 2 with the retroactive piece to January 1st.
All right, we have a motion to essentially accept the recommendations for the named individuals listed in bullets 1 and 2 and retroactive January 1st. Is there a second? We have a second. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion on this? Not all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move then to item E, which is review and take action on 510 South Second Street, approval to purchase property for health department. And we have additional presentation from our health department director.
Before you start, So just about an hour or so ago at Plan Commission, Carol asked for permission. It's a little bit different than what's in the memo, which is why I'm pointing it out. Carol asked for permission to begin the process of exploring with the property owner this piece of land. Now, the Plan Commission approved that, knowing that the ability to negotiate comes from you all. So they look at the land use and you all look at, is this land that we want to own for this purpose? The memo talks about construction. Take that out of your brain. We're just looking at the permission to negotiate, to be able to have conversations. If that were to be successful, you all are at this point now are familiar with all of the steps that happened between that point and the point we're at today. So I just wanted to start with that, knowing it's surely spinning in some of your minds. So if you want to share your vision for the space, I hope that helps.
Okay, and when we get to that point, I will be asking for a recommendation on action because that was not necessarily spelled out in the memo to you either.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just reflect on what the mayor just said. This did just go to Plan Commission, so I noticed in the memo, all of the committee identification didn't change from the finance, but it's the same memo that went to the Plan Commission. And just go through the background for this request. The lot that's adjacent to the parking lot of the health department. Mayor, will you? Okay, yep, that's okay. And then I can pull up the other part if it's of interest.
Go ahead, I'll get there.
The health department does multiple services that have to be done outside. Car seat installation. We also have drive-through immunization clinics, and then another service that we do, we work with mobile food vendors. We work with that owner to make sure that their unit meets code. All of these services are provided year-round, and I especially think about our car seat installation. We are the only entity in the city that provides car seat installation, and we have families that come with multiple children in all kinds of weather, and children are standing in our parking lot out in snow and rain, as well as my staff, and there are a number of safety and health issues with that. So I looked at a variety of different opportunities within the location of the health department. We're not able to meet or have any agreement with any of those other sites. This site has been available. It's been vacant for a number of years, and it is adjacent to our parking lot. So the vision for that space would be that we would have a building where we would have drive-through access on one half of the building, where we would have like a garage door to the east and west. So a car could come into the space. We could close the doors so that it would be climate controlled. It wouldn't be heated, but at least they would be out of the elements. And then we would be able to provide a safer space for families, actually really helping families come in any type of weather, and provide a really important service to the community. The mayor had.
Just say, talk about funding.
Yeah, so I do have funding for this project through ARPA funding. It was funding that I received. I thought it was going to be expiring at the end of 24, and then at the last minute, the extension through 25 became available. So I do have funding to cover the expense. The mayor has talked with the property owner. There is interest in working with the city, and depending on the decision here at the Finance Committee, I could show you a picture of the drawing of the the facility for that space if you're interested. I did just receive that this afternoon. Let me just pull that up.
So
Just a
I,
clarification while she's looking, the ARPA money she's talking about is not the ARPA money that came to this city. It's an allocation that goes through DHS.
and I haven't negotiated at all with the landowner. I just brought it to, I went to see if he was interested so that it didn't just appear on a meeting agenda and him have no awareness. He
Yeah.
purchased the parcel some years ago with the original intention of putting housing there. And that's just not anywhere on his radar right now. Do you want me to pull that up?
Yes, and I'm ready.
To more specifically, this is the one that we approved last year on like August 26th from Wisconsin DHS.
The money you're saying?
Yes.
The allocation that was back in August was a sum of small projects that were spent. And also there was a budget request for things that had been purchased or were in process of purchase. This was not on that list.
Yeah, so some of those examples were the generator at the senior center, some equipment for the
Carol,
fire.
pull your mic way closer.
So some examples of those expenses that Mark is talking about would include equipment for the fire department. We had some tornado sirens, generator for the senior center. That was in that original approval. And this would be new.
Do you want to describe what they're looking at?
So you can see the drawing that our new assistant engineer put together. Part of the project would also be looking at economizing our parking lot and getting more parking space out of the current parking lot. So you can see the purple lines in our parking lot, which there are many uses for our parking lot. We're right across the street from the senior center. So there are many times that their parking lot is full and ours is as well. And we're happy, to accommodate that. So this just makes that accommodation for seniors better. And then right here, this is the lot. This would be the building where the purple lines are, and where the hash marks are would be the drive-through. So there would be a garage door here, entry, and then an exit, and then exit out onto Second Street with some additional parking spaces here. So this part of the building would be for program equipment, supplies, storage.
And the building is essentially, what does it look like? Whole shedish?
Yes, yeah. Pole shedish, yeah.
Very technical term. But I would hypothesize based on other conversations with planning commission that they will want some type of brick or stone veneer to go
Yeah.
around the bottom quarter or so of the building. They typically do when we make these types of buildings allowable in residential areas.
Mhm.
So I want to acknowledge, Mark and I are working on bringing to you all before I go options, just as a jumping off point for the facility assessment report. Remember, we did that report. We've identified cost. We've been working with Baird to figure out how that would work over time. So we'll be bringing that to you all. This is coming separately because it's a different pot of money. We would not be borrowing for this project. It would be using one-time COVID grant money. And at the time, that grant money was going to expire very quickly. So that's why this one kind of started to run in parallel to the bigger picture. I'm still comfortable with it not being in the bigger picture because we do have a funding source for it. And it's a funding source that has no impact on the levy. But I just wanted to acknowledge that. So that will come to you all yet in the next, probably March.
I am a little hung up still on the budget piece. Back in August, we looked at a change to Fund 15 because of the state allocation. And I'm not necessarily sure I'm seeing that reflected in our Fund 15 budget for 2025 or 2024.
So Carol would not have included this in her budget request for expense because I would have told her she couldn't. because of the facility assessment report. If that's what you're asking, but if you're saying the revenue isn't there either,
I'm right. And
then
so,
that's a Merc.
yeah, and so that's where I go back to, on August 26th, we basically made a change to Fund 15. It's not specified in the minutes necessarily which exact accounts we were adjusting. But I also don't see it in my current budget documents.
Yeah, so all of that was in 24. There wasn't anything expected in 25. So that's why you don't see it in any 25 budget, because the assumption was it all disappears December 31.
Which I could get behind, but if we're doing carryover into 25,
We don't,
we,
we don't, the carryover, if you will, is fund balance.
We,
That's how-
we didn't know until it could have been early December that these funds would continue to be available in 25. They were going to go away and no longer available.
They
okay,
don't give us the money until we've spent them,
okay.
you know, so you don't see them because we haven't requested them yet.
So I think that's important because I did, there is, basically back in that time frame, it looks like we submitted essentially an ARPA piece for specific expenses at that point. So we got a reimbursement. We're not necessarily getting a grant in advance.
Correct.
Okay. That's a part I wasn't getting. Thank you.
Is it county or state-based?
State.
State.
Yeah.
You know, so she has to put in a
Yeah.
list of, these are the things that we're asking for. She asks first
Mhm.
permission to spend money on this and this and this. We spend it, and then she asks for reimbursement for this and this and this.
Okay. I think this comes back to my original question. What are we looking for approval to do here? Is it continue the negotiations? Do we have
So
to
by
stay up?
ordinance, I need your permission to negotiate.
And that's it? We don't need a dollar set?
I mean, we would want to do, I don't need one yet. No, I mean, it's a vacant parcel.
Motion to approve the negotiation for purchase of this property for the health department.
We have a motion by Alder Davis. Is there a second? To raise up higher than that. Alder Moldenhauer. You see lots of head nods. We have,
It's not as easy as it looks, chairing this thing.
I know. First and a second on that motion to negotiate for the property. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Carol, will you email me so that we can? And then for whoever's using that mic, it has a horrible range of motion. So if you look over at these folks, they can't hear you at all. So you have to like turn and hold it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 3F, which is review and take action on the EMS billing write-offs. Do we have presentation on that? If I'm the chief.
Hi, I'm Andrea Peters this evening.
It's like last time I was her.
Just the memo of accounts that she's asking for approval to be written off. She's gone to Department of Revenue. They're determined uncollectible. Motion to approve.
All right, Alder Davis.
I was just, what's the rhythm of these approvals? I was trying to figure out how often we do this.
So unless you know. Okay, so in the past, it's ebbed and flowed, and it really ebbs and flows based on the work demands of Andrea. We spent, were you here yet? We did this?
Yeah.
We spent some time understanding what the past dues were and establishing metrics for the frequency at which we wrote them off.
Okay.
And that's why you're seeing an increase
Mhm.
in the amount of times it's coming before you all.
Okay.
Andrea was at that time supposed to document what those benchmarks were. So I don't have that with me, but perhaps you guys have that back at the department.
Okay, I don't know the exact one off the top of my head.
Yeah. I don't either, but that's why you're seeing it more if that was.
It took place 3 times last calendar year, because I just had to give that to the auditors.
Oh. I'll make a motion to approve the EMS write-offs as presented here.
First by Alder Davis, is there a second? Alder Bartz with the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that is approved.
Thank you.
Next, we have review and take action on the fire department ladder truck replacement.
Yes. So this was a topic that was brought to my attention immediately upon starting here. And we had a lot of discussion on what's the best approach and what's the timeline. And I've spent the good part of the year learning the budget process, and it didn't come up during that. So essentially, the ladder truck is due to be replaced. Lead times are 4 years, 50 months out, and it'll be 22 years in the year of 2029. We've had increased costs. I have submitted, or I just handed out some paperwork as well, to kind of outline the costs that we've been spending on the apparatus, what we're expecting to have to pay to just keep it working. And then we're looking for approval to go ahead and move forward with ordering a truck. That doesn't cost us any money today. It's no cost until delivery, which is good. The timeline of delivery is to be determined yet at this time. There are potentially a couple slots where we could get it in 2027, but we're most likely looking at 2028 at the end of it, or 2029.
I do want to comment just in terms of the capital improvement plan, the 5-year plan. Last time I looked at that, I think we had a plug for 2.5 in 2027.
8 or 27?
Correct.
I think as part of this, we'd be interested in knowing when we're on the hook, and when we actually would be required to spend that money.
Correct. So you're not on the hook until we take delivery, and once we move forward with doing it, I can come back at the next finance meeting and get more information. But until we have a spot in the line, that doesn't have the determination of what year it's going to be. And every delay that we've had, so there's been a couple quarters, and that's about a 3 to 4% increase in the cost every quarter. Yes.
I don't see it in the packet here. What company did you get the $2.5 million quote from?
We've been working with both E1 and Reliant, and both of them came in very similar. We were at 2.3, and then obviously the price increases over the last year has occurred. So we're looking at 2.5 to 2.6.
Have we ever bought a truck from Pierce Manufacturing in Oshkosh?
Yeah.
Oshkosh Corporation?
Yep, and so what we did is the committee went and looked at all of the Pierce and E1 manufacturers, and they have recommended that we go with E1 as the manufacturer because it gives us more customizability in the cabinets and how things function. We had to look at this apparatus as a 20-year thing and what is going to happen with our operations in the next 20 years, rather than just how we operate today with 1 or 2 people peeing on the apparatus. And so we needed to make sure that it could be an everything truck today, and in 15 years, it can be a ladder truck only type situation. And so that was the main recommendation for going with E1. Additional things that the committee looked at was the construction of the ladder. Pierce only does steel construction for the ladder part that actually goes up versus the aluminum, and there's pros and cons to each one of those. And now we've had 2 committees completely break down, and both committees recommended E1 as the product. Yes.
I have a series of questions.
No,
That's fine.
Please go
So I'm
ahead. You're on a
curious
roll.
if you've done a cost comparison and you're asking us to commit tonight to going forward with that, why we haven't seen that cost comparison and
We
been
have.
able to, but this committee has not seen that?
Correct. So what they did is they did a cost analysis, and both of them would be very similar in price. And the article that's in the very back of the handout I just gave you talks to how the prices of all apparatus have raised and have eventually stabilized across both manufacturers or multiple manufacturers. It's because they're all being bought up by one super company. So there's not going to be that much. And once we move forward with it, we can present the actual cost, but we're looking for not to exceed 2.6.
So my discomfort with this is because we are out of the normal budget cycle, and it's during that budget cycle, then there's the finance committee's approval, but then there goes through a council approval. And if we give approval to purchase, then we are outside of that normal set of approvals. And I'm not comfortable with making a commitment to purchase something without knowing how we're going to purchase it, what mechanism we're going to use. 2.5, as you know, is more than half of what we normally spend. in capital improvement in a year. So that also leads me to my next question. I'm curious to know if you've looked into municipal leasing options?
I have not looked at municipal leasing options. However, to speak to your other point, we discussed that at length in May and June when I started here. The length of time it takes to build an apparatus, if we don't go ahead and approve moving forward with ordering and getting it on the apparatus, then there's never going to be a time where it's going to fit into one budget cycle. So you have to look forward at that aspect.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
That
and
being said, there's nothing due. And with this company, with E1, if we go with FSI, in the past conversations we've had, they have said that they could resell that spot or get rid of it.
I understand that it's wise to be thinking about this because the lifespan seems to be coming to an end. How much have we saved so far for replacement vehicles? Do we have anything that we put away in anticipation of a replacement program?
No. No. I mean, they don't have their own replacement program fund that we've allowed them to build over time. There have been plenty of requests from the fire department to maintain their EMS revenue for such a purpose. I think there's some that do. We balance our budget with their EMS revenue. So that's not something we've been able to support in the past because it would increase the levy. I just want to clarify one thing because I think it's important for conversation. We're approving proceeding, not purchasing. When we get to a position where it's time to take delivery, that period of time, which is 4 years down the road, will have gone through the process of determining how it will be paid, when it will be paid. It is outside of our usual process. You're completely accurate in that. We've learned with fire apparatus and EMS, it necessitates a process that's different than our usual. We did it for the first time by pre-authorizing an ambulance. This is that same concept, except what's different is that we don't have to pay or commit to payment. And the lead time is almost double what it is of an ambulance. So I don't think, to me, what I evaluated when Chief Ryan brought this up to me is I don't see a loss in saying get our engine on, or it's not going to be on the line for a long time anyway, but get our ladder on the line for assembly now and save ourselves the 5 months, 6 months before you all will start evaluating the budget. If you get to that point, this is my last one because I'm running out of
No,
air.
you're fine.
If you get to that point in May, when we do, well, I presume when you all will do the capital fund updates, or you get to that point during the budget cycle, all we've lost is 6 months of time or gained, depending upon the way you look at it. So I'm with you. It's contrary to the usual process. I just didn't see what we were losing. I'll just add, this topic of a ladder comes up with my colleagues all the time in Dodge and Jefferson County. And I think it's something that's flippantly tossed around, to be honest. I don't know that many understand the level of deployment of these resources throughout the county. We are providing a really critical service for our residents, our commercial and industrial people, and our neighbors. So I would love to see a conversation where our neighbors start participating in the cost of purchasing the ladder versus getting into the business of leasing one. And it's for one specific reason. We can't borrow for lease payments. We tried to lease an entire fleet of vehicles when I first started. I was hoping we could lease tandem axles and 1-tons and the whole kit and caboodle, but we are not allowed to borrow money for lease payments. So it would have to come out of the general fund. And that's the difficulty with leasing is how do we carve out $2.5 million, right, in our general fund? So, yep.
So are you saying that they don't require any down payment, nothing on the front end at all to get your name on the list?
Correct.
Huh, that's so interesting. So they're just assuming that if you don't come through, somebody will.
They know someone will.
They
Yeah.
know someone.
So they're just planning manufacturing. Okay, we know we have this many people interested or this many municipalities. It was interesting to read about. I was trying to search whether or not we could use borrowed money to pay for a municipal leasing.
Do you have a different
It
opinion?
was interesting. I did seem to find that it did seem to indicate, so I'm interested in seeing what you're
It's
saying.
never been the case since I've been here.
Actually,
So when did that
the
change?
one that we're replacing was leased. I looked back, 2007, there was a lease arrangement
But where do
that
we
went
pay
for
them?
15 years out of Fund 5.
And can we still? Yeah, so I
I
wouldn't say
don't
that out
know.
loud.
I haven't done a single bit of
I would be
work
really
except that I
careful.
went back.
I specifically asked Barrett about it and the answer was no. So I'd be careful about that. I'm not saying you're not right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I trust Barrett a whole lot. Look, if
Yeah.
y'all can lease for it, then great.
Yeah. That
I've
seemed like a
never
really good
experienced-
option, and it also has the out clause, which says that if we don't vote that year to approve the funds, then yes, you lose the truck, but you can break the contract, which I thought was an interesting out clause. So it was my understanding that that out clause doesn't make it debt. Doesn't make leasing, and maybe leasing is never considered debt. I don't know. Okay,
And
I'm
that's-
done.
And you're substantiating my point, though. That's what would make it only allowable for the general fund.
Okay, so we should look into it though. Okay, I'm totally done with
I'm
my questions.
concerned
Thank you
about
for your patience.
Okay, the place that I'm at as a source of comfort was that entry that we did see in our 5-year plan, and it's been creeping toward us for a couple of years, and that, it has been getting bigger. But now it's 2.5. The recommendation here, I believe, is basically to put a stub for 2.6 in 2029, 2028. We have to figure out which date that is, certainly.
We will.
But basically that kicks the can down the road a little bit. But based on our experience with purchasing the ambulance and getting in line there, I expected this request to show up. And now it's here. So there's really no concern or no surprise on my part. It's an expense that we've been staring at for a couple of years now. And now we finally have something concrete to wrap our arms around, and actually it's time to get in line. So I certainly entertain a motion to appropriately get us in line. I may need some clarification on what to do here.
Approve the process of ordinary replacement truck, ladder truck.
Say without a financial commitment, just to make sure that it's overly clear.
Right.
And before you order, Mark and I will confirm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm trying to email Brad, but I can't get his email.
So we're looking to approve the process of ordering a vehicle without a financial commitment.
Does that work for you, Chief?
I'm staring at our city attorney as well. Works for him. Okay. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Alderman Oldbauer. Is there a second? Alder Bartz. We have a first and a second on that. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
I am wondering about your process, when we approached this for the first time for ambulance and then 2 trucks. It was a resolution that was approved in budget season with the future. So there was a date specific to it. I realize it's out, but I also can't just come up with $2.6 million in November if we haven't approved it for that year. And also,
So are you soliciting an amendment to not be ordered before to keep it out of our budget season?
No.
Or what are you
No,
looking
I
to do?
think you can,
No.
if you want that, you can just have a resolution allowing us to order the truck without a financial commitment.
yeah,
And if Chief can get a date,
I will come back to you with a date and
Yeah.
a price and the
and we'll put
contract,
the date, why
in
don't
the
we just
future.
approve it with when she gets the contract?
please.
We'll bring that resolution would have to come through anyway.
yeah.
We've
I'm
got
just-
it.
I'm asking for a resolution to
Yes.
council.
I would like that.
Oh, in the future?
No,
No.
once she gets, we've got it.
Yeah, okay.
We got it. She's not gonna order anything until Mark and I confirm this leasing question. But once that's confirmed, the way I hypothesize it will be, Chief will be able to order, which will produce a timeline and a date and a contract.
And the price.
That will then go through council for approval.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody?
The motion on the table is approve the process of ordering without the financial commitment.
That works.
Yes.
Everybody still good with that? Okay, then that's what we'll vote on. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you. Good luck with that negotiation.
I got it. Thank you.
Chief.
Okay, we're gonna move to other Services. In 3H, review and approve the updated military leave policy. Soliciting a little bit of a explanation. I think it's just a change.
Yep, so we, and Officer Hensley was a part of the group that updated this policy. So if you want to add anything, feel free to come to the mic. But we had just gotten a request at leadership team that there was times where our policy was limiting our ability to pay our team members who go on guard training. And so we wanted to be able to be more flexible there. And that was where it started. And then through the group that was Officer Hensley, Jay Heller, and Sherry Rohr, they were able to expand it to include common process questions, which is screams like it comes out of the finance department, and some of the state and federal law as well. The only change that I made from what was submitted by the subgroup was what is track changed on the version in front of you. The versions are too different for me to track change the entire thing. So that's why I gave you a screenshot of our existing policy and then the version here. So we're just looking for approval to update our military leave policy to be what you see on page 26 and 27.
Okay, and for clarity's sake, this applies not only to folks who are in the Guard, but any military as,
Yes.
as stated in that opening paragraph.
Luke, do you want to add anything? Yeah.
It would apply to any military leave.
Right.
Yeah, so what it was explained to me was, and if you read it, it's very reflective of it. The current policy is about like a 1980s guardsman schedule with 2 weeks a year, 1 weekend a month, and that's not realistic for how the military's changed in advance. There's lots of certifications we have to keep up with. And like the mayor had said, often our annual trainings are not 2 weeks, they're about 3 weeks. There are certain employees that essentially lose money going to do their job for the National Guard or whatever branch they're in. So this one brings up that part, making more realistic for the days they're missing for their service. And then, as Mayor McFarland said, there was, as someone who's had several military leaves, long-term and short-term, working with the city, also the rest is already a rule that's in place that we're not making. It's just in line with USERRA. It's just, we suggested it be put in there because it's typically where, if, I've never had a clash with it, but if there's confusion, it's between the service member returning and their employer. That's what we highlighted and added in there, were basically sore points as far as how many days do you have to return to work, what you're required to do, and what the employer is required to do.
Yeah, definitely appreciate all the work, tightening that up. We've done a number of policies where basically we've tried to better conform to state law and whatnot. So thank you for that extra work. Are there any other questions about this? And I think I'd solicit a motion to approve it in its entirety.
Also move.
Thank you, Alder Moldenauer. Is there a second, Alder Davis? Any further discussion?
Stephen,
I do.
will you make the resolution and get it on council?
Yes, we can prepare a resolution.
Sorry, Mark.
Yep, no problem. The one area that has an undefined end to it is the break-in service under the leave benefits, page 26. There is the capability of, if a person is deployed, we're not talking about weekend warrior type stuff as much as a deployment, and we've got one currently that is deployed for a year. At what point are we going to say that vacation continues to be earned when they're not here during that period of time? And it's easy, if you will, on the 3 weeks, and the 3 weeks is differential pay. No problem on that 3 weeks. It's just this vacation. We don't have any other kind of unpaid status that is earning vacation currently. So it's just a matter of what do you want on that? I'm not saying it's good, bad, or otherwise. I'm just saying it's currently, because there is no definition to that. If a person were to be gone for a year, as a for instance, are you willing to say, we're going to give you that year's vacation time when you return?
Okay, as stated, what is the case? That it is given?
Yes.
Yeah. Good officer, feels like he has something to add.
I just have, so there is 2 points. The general rule with you, Sarah, is if everyone else gets it for just existing, then the service member gets it, which that's why there's a difference in our sick pay versus vacation. Sick pay you have to work to earn, have to put in your hours. Vacation I get just by existing here. By my years of service, I get so much vacation. But that besides that, if there's any uncomfort with this, and I don't know if it was done, I suggested it in the working group. There is a group in Wisconsin, ESGR, Employer Sport Guard Relations, where an ombudsman, sorry, that word's weird. We'll review your policy and questions with you to make sure you're in line with both being a positive employer and USERRA requirements. But that's always been my understanding of USERRA is if everybody gets it, just by virtue of being there, years of service, seniority, all that kind of stuff, then the service member gets it. The break for that would be essentially that cumulative 5-year, is my understanding of 5 years of service that you've been away consecutively.
What Luke said is why I kept it the way it was.
Yep.
I want, the risk is what I put in the financial impact. The risk, which Mark's doing his job of representing, is that we allow Luke to accumulate all that and he goes overseas for a year and comes back, works a day and quits. Well, now we have to pay him all that out. Like that's the financial risk.
Right.
It's a risk I feel comfortable taking. And I want to be clear, you weren't representing that with any opinion. It was just bringing it up. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're comfortable with what Officer Hensley represented, then we're solid in the version that's before you.
Okay. And we're voting to recommend this to council for approval.
Yes.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to thank Luke and Jay and Sherry. They spent a lot of time, and Stacy for bringing it up to us in our leadership team meeting. These are the moments that make me really proud to lead that team. Like they really care about each other and it's pretty awesome. Is Mason still here? You are. All right, get up here.
Yes.
You guys have had so many heavy topics tonight and
It's because I canceled the meeting earlier this.
hopefully I'm a slight break from that. This was presented as an informational update for the Finance Committee. As you all recall, the city signed a pre-development agreement with Intrepid Investments back in November of 24, late November actually. And that's concerning 2 sites, 111 South Water Street, which is the much talked about parcel right by the town square. And then also a portion of the North First Street parking lot adjacent to City Hall. Mayor McFarland and I had a meeting with the developers last week, and I would say that went very well. They are moving through their steps to get ready for a development proposal. And the city is also engaged in a phase 2 environmental site assessment on the North First Street parking lot. The only concerns there relate to uses on the property decades ago, and that's just a step that was necessary should the developer go out for securing a loan to fund the development. A bank would realistically want to have that information on hand. So I would say things are moving well. We feel very good about the relationship with Intrepid Investments right now. We realistically will be seeking an extension to the pre-development agreement. We talked with the developers and we're all of the same mind that we would like to do one extension if needed, and that would be it. We know there's a history with some indefinite extensions that happened on previous development proposals, and we want to do our best to avoid that sort of situation if at all possible.
And I think they said we weren't in multiple months. It was like, Did they give us a range? I feel
We're
like I
talking
hear
about
it's
maybe like 60
60 days.
days. So as I laid out in the memo, we would see likely coming back to Finance Committee with a term sheet, a financial term sheet, hopefully on or before March 31st. So we think that type of an extension would be realistic. We are not seeking approval of an extension tonight. This was just an opportunity for information, any questions you might have at this time. And we would probably come back to possibly the next Finance Committee if we decide that a formal extension request is needed.
Good progress, though. I feel really good about it.
I think that the one question that's going to come up is because these are two different parcels, does it ever make sense to end up with basically two different agreements? Or is that just complicating the things? Not looking for you to answer here, but it's a question that I think will probably come up.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair question. Yeah. I don't have an answer for you tonight either.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I think we have a bit of happenstance, good happenstance to discuss on 3K, which is talking about TID number 4 closing. There's a piece in the policy that is
Jonathan,
Yeah.
3J first.
BJ. Am I off by one?
Yep.
I am off by one. Okay, let's go back to 3J. We're gonna do 2024 Fund 1 preliminary results, and that is
Handout that I've given to you
Thank
at
you.
the front end of the meeting. I have just about all of the transactions. We'll finish tomorrow with additional 2024 expenditures, but cutting to the chase, if you look at the bottom of page 2, down at the bottom, currently this looks like a net loss of 327. Just a reminder, the budget had a $747,000 net loss, impacting fund balance, in other words. But we've got a journal entry that auditors are on site the end of next week that I anticipate will be at least 800,000. Sometime we budgeted for 850,000, so it's going to be somewhere in that range. I'm conservatively listing the 800,000. We have a cable TV Q4 receipt that has not yet showed up. It'll be here any day, but it's typically 50,000. And then just around $100,000 of miscellaneous expenses. I know of about 50, but what I don't know is tomorrow's check run. But including the 100,000, again, on a conservative basis, I would project that we're probably going to look at a $400,000 net increase for Fund 1, 2024, not a fund decrease of $700,000.
Nice.
And also good news, and stay tuned. By the end of next week, I'll have what I feel a more solid number, but this is where it's at now.
Nice.
I want to just draw attention to that because we have had critical folks of this approach, and this approach has been working as long as we've been using it, that I've been in this role. So this allows us to tax people less upfront.
Mhm.
And Mark is an excellent finance director, and I trust he'll continue to advise you on this quantity and path into the future. So super good news.
It is.
That's a good one for you, Zach.
Interest earnings, by the way, of
Oh my gosh, we
$775,000.
almost made it.
Wait, where am I? How much? Say it again.
$775,000.
Hey,
He just gave me some interest earning mumbo jumbo last week, and I rolled my eyes and then congratulated him.
do that, but 3 more times for a fire truck.
That's right.
He's about to do it tomorrow for
Yeah.
the fire station.
Well, I was happily going down my packet, thus I almost skipped that, but I'm very
That was a
happy you did not.
thing. No, you didn't want that, the happy news?
The next one's happy too,
Yes,
so
it
let's
is.
keep
I was-
going.
Yeah, that's the thing. In your packet, I was going to call your attention to page 38 for item K on the initial closeout draft. Page 38 has the numbers. And as you can see, at the very bottom, under the piece around the city proceeds, we have Rock River Ridge has a significant allocation of TID 4, something obviously that passed through here already. But there is the remaining balance that I believe we're going to talk about.
And it's more just to bring it to your attention than anything. April 15th is our deadline to have the termination resolution approved and passed along to the state of Wisconsin. So that's what page 37 is, just the mock-up of the state's form that I've filled in the blanks on. We are subject to a end-of-life audit on this, but I've included that estimate on page 38 as well. And again, we'll be starting that process with the auditors next week on what is involved with those things. And so page 38, I've effectively gone through and tried to figure out everything and anything that I could find that should impact what the Fund 8 balance is as of 24, 3.87. The tax increment is a hard number. That 898 is real to the penny. And then the rest of it are estimates and or what the rest of the debt schedule is, what the BASO remaining is, any and all of those things are listed there for you. So the 891 is the very close approximation, if you will, to what will be the ending of the money that we have available to us. The mayor has asked our leadership team to think of what other ideas are there for that. I thought it was a prudent timing for me to just remind you with the capital improvement schedule, because honestly, I look at it and say, well, what can we conquer in 2026, 27? Things that were already in the schedule, if you will. Maybe there's something on that list that makes sense for it. But there's nothing beyond that except to just say, we need to start thinking about it and all. And so in the course of the next 2 meetings or so, you will have the legitimate termination, because we got to get that satisfied to the state before April 15.
And the only thing I'll add to that is if you have ideas, if there's things on the Fund 5 list or things not on the list that you want us to include in what's presented to you all, just send those into Mark, and then we'll take the leadership team list, your list, our list, and we'll bring it to you all for discernment.
On, this goes a little bit beyond what we talk about here in the city of Watertown normally, but on the top half of that piece, we talk about the other taxing bodies that essentially benefit from the closure of this. To what degree do we know that they've that they're essentially ready for this allocation?
We started talking about this last year in the Joint Review Board. I had an approximation that laid out 2024, 2025. So all of these other taxing entities have had representation over a year ago with approximately the same numbers. So what they do with it in their budget, yeah, I'm spending full time here. I don't know what they're doing.
Thank you.
But they are all in the know.
Okay, we do not have any additional action that we're going to take on this. This was again, 2 really good reports right in a row. Thank you very much. I just don't suppose finance has a hat trick, do they?
Hey, before you start these, do you want to just level set with those in the room and those attending remotely? What happened?
Certainly. We have a series of closed sessions. Obviously, that means that we are going to close the doors and talk amongst ourselves. We are also going to change who's attending online so that we limit this down to the Finance Committee and a chosen few people to join us. As I said, there's 3 closed sessions in a row. Each of these has action that we're expecting to take place at the end of that. But there's probably not going to be much more information shared, since most of that will take place in closed session, and then we'll adjourn. Anything else you want to say on that? Okay, with that, I would solicit a motion to convene into closed session as per section 19.8, para 1, para E, to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
So moved.
This pertains to the,
Sorry, this does pertain to the First Amendment to the development agreement between the city and the Health Foundation.
thank you.
Still want that motion, sir?
So moved.
All right, we have a first, we do a second, we have a second. We're going to call the roll on this one.
I normally just do it.
I suppose I should.
You can start with Myra.
Let's start with Myron then. Go ahead.
Aye.
All right, Myron, I'll vote aye.
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 All right, we have 5-0 on aye, so we
I'll
will
be quiet
go
for
into
just a
closed session.
second here.
Getting your steps in today. Okay, we have one more after this, but first I would solicit a motion for hire for dispatch. Alder Davis,
I make a motion to hire Tiffany Cole at grade 1, step 6, with allowing her to carry over her accumulated hours of sick time.
sick time, okay. Is there a second to that? Alder Bartz? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is passed. Thank you. Once more, I would solicit a motion to convene into closed session as per Wisconsin statute, section 1985, para 1, para C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This is in relation to JR. Does someone want to make that motion?
moved.
Alder Moldenauer. The second by Alder Davis. All right, we're
Aye.
gonna start with you. Thank you. Aye.
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 Step 7.
All right, so we have a motion on the table from Alderman Bartz to hire Josh Rios at grade M, step 7. Is there a second?
Second.
Alder Davis? Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, then that is passed. Thank you. We are now on to step 4, which is adjournment. Alder Davis, Alder Bartz, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.